Everyone, and welcome to the California Architects Board meeting, February 24th. We'll start. I'm Sonny Ward, and I'll be your humble leader and president today for the first time.
Can you hear me? I cannot hear anyone's voice.
Yes, Tian, we can hear you. Can you hear me?
Let's see. Member Fang, can you hear the meeting? It seems as though not. And Drew,
Can you guys hear me? Because I can't hear anyone.
We can
Oh,
hear
no.
you.
Wow. We can hear everybody. Uh-oh.
So Drew, if we could go to the troubleshooting slide deck, I believe slide 11.
I can hear you now. I can hear
Oh,
just
Okay.
Great. Welcome.
So
Ebony,
as you do roll
Yes, yeah.
call, you might end up finding troubleshooting options.
we'll wait just one more minute and see if Ebony can hear us. I think she's the last one that's has a
Audio issue.
audio
Okay.
issue. Ebony, can you hear us yet?
And just as a point of business, it's my understanding that Member Pierman will be arriving about an hour late.
Thank you. That's
You're
who I was trying to find on the
You're
visual.
right. I have not seen him log in yet.
Ebony, can you hear us yet? No, you're muted.
Okay, there's a double mute. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, I called in because I don't know why the computer sound wouldn't work.
Okay, awesome. That's great. Thank you for doing that. Okay, let's get going. So let's call the meeting to order. It is 10:04, February 24th, 2023. Secretary Brett Gladstone, will you please call our roll? You're muted.
Yeah, Sonny Ward is present. Tian Fang. Tian Fang. You're muted, Tian.
yeah.
Okay. Brett Gladstone. Mitra Kanani. Mitra? Are you muted, Mitra? I'll come back to you. Sylvia Kwan.
Present.
Ebony Lewis. Ebony, are you there? You're muted, but I see you. I'll count you as here.
You waved your hand.
Ron Jones.
Present.
Robert Pearman.
Present. Good morning.
Yilza Serrano.
Present.
I'll come back to Mitra Kanani. Do I see you? Does anyone see Mitra?
Yes, she's online, but I'm not sure she can hear us.
Can she just put her hand up?
Well, she needs to be able to hear us.
Okay, well, what should I do?
Send her a message privately, please.
All right, we have a quorum and she can confirm later and I'll put her down as present.
That's right. We'll definitely mark her present. And if someone could do some IT help in the background, that would be great.
Yes, this is the
Okay.
moderator, and I do see Mitra's camera is on. It's
Just,
possible she cannot hear us.
just as a note, there
Tina,
are a
I
lot of
don't,
people,
I
there are a
don't
lot of
have
people
audio.
having problems.
I believe I did just
I'm
hear Mitra
speaking with
speak.
Mitra. She has no audio.
Thanks, Tian. Let's wait just a moment.
Yeah, if
We'll give
not,
it a-
just tell her to call in like
I
Ebony
think-
did.
I can already help you. Let's hang
Yeah,
up.
I
They
got
maybe help you.
Sure.
Oh,
And Drew, perhaps, oh,
Mitra,
thank you
can you
very
hear
much,
us?
Drew. We are displaying slides that a slide that might help with Mitra. All the way at the bottom choice for under the unmute is switch audio.
we can hear her. She can't hear us is the issue. I just heard her speak.
Okay,
She's muted herself, so if you could unmute her.
I can send a request. I don't have the ability.
Okay, got it.
So you can see that she is muted.
Yes.
I can tell her, okay?
I'm going to
And
read a little bit in the background. It looks like we have perfect attendance today. So 6 members of the board will constitute a quorum for the
Mute.
transaction.
Okay. Do you hear me now?
Yes.
Do you hear me?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah, but I'm not hearing you guys.
Bummer.
Let me see. Let me see. Let me connect to. Let me see. Just a moment. Do you want to talk?
Yes. Hi. Can you hear me?
Well,
Mitra test.
do you hear me?
I can hear you. Yes, but I don't think you can hear me.
Hello?
And Mitra, if you hit the closed caption, the CC in
No,
the,
I
you're not
can't
going to be
hear
able to hear my instructions either, though. You can look for another device, or you can log back out and log
Yeah,
back
my
in.
speaker is on.
Tian, you're on the
Yeah,
phone
my
with
speaker
her.
is on.
Please tell her what our
And it's
moderator is
very to
telling
the
us
highest.
so that she understands. Just repeat what she's saying, please.
Okay. But I'm not hearing anyone.
Right. So Mitra, if you'd like, you can log out and log back in. Sometimes that solves your problems. Another option
Yes, yeah.
is to click on the CC, the closed
Okay,
captioning
sure,
button, to
sure.
see what people are saying, although that's not a binding legal record.
Okay, she's logging out and coming in again. We'll try that. And I think this is a governor's hint, ask us to meet in person, no more virtual meetings.
Brett, I stepped on your toes. Do you want to finish the call to order while we wait for Mitra to come back? I'm sorry.
I stated at the end of the call to order that we have a quorum.
Okay, great. So I will move on if that's okay with everyone.
You know, there is one need we do have to have 10. There is one thing to note about having 9 versus 10, which is that on a motion to carry, it's 5 members necessary. When 10 people are present, it's the concurrence of 6 members to carry an act out, just so you know.
Great, thank you. Okay, so I'm going to move on. I just want to remind everyone that this meeting is being webcast. And a reminder that all motions and seconds will be repeated for the record, and votes on motions will be taken by roll call. We'll stop now and ask for any public comment.
And this is the moderator. We're opening up our WebEx Q&A feature to facilitate public comment. If you would like to make a comment for an item that is not on the agenda, You can look for the question mark icon, typically in the lower right of the WebEx screen or behind the 3-dot other options if you're on a mobile device. Type the word comment into the text box and click send. The other option is to raise your hand if you would like to make a comment on anything that's not on the agenda. And each speaker will have 2 minutes to speak with a 30-second warning. Are there any people who would like to make a comment on an item that is not on the agenda?
This is a small point of clarification. I think this particular public comment is just on the opening remarks, and then we'll move in. I
Oh,
don't
my
think we can do it-
apologies.
I don't think we can do it at the same time. So this is on opening remarks, and then we'll move into.
Mr. President, Michael Kanotes, Board Counsel. First of all, welcome. Excellent to be working with you. And I think here we can move on to public comment on items not on the agenda, because the public can comment on any item, including the roll call or
Okay,
you
great.
know, how the meeting's going.
Trying to do it right.
Excellent.
And I have not seen any requests to comment. So would you
Great.
like me to close the public comment feature?
Let's close it down and keep moving forward.
Thank you.
We'll now move on for an update on the Department of Consumer Affairs from Melissa Gear. Welcome.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. Hello and good morning, President Ward, Vice President Jones, Executive Officers Amiga, and members of the board. I'm Melissa Gear, Deputy Director for Board and Bureau Relations, and I appreciate the opportunity to provide the Department of Consumer Affairs update this morning. I have several updates that I will share with you this morning, starting with DCA's Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Steering Committee, which is comprised of DCA, Board, and Bureau leadership. The DEI Committee held its second meeting on January 27th and established the committee's charter, discussed changes to the strategic planning process, and development of a DEI fact sheet. Additional resources will be forthcoming that the board will be able to use and incorporate into their strategic plans and communications. Next is an update regarding strategic planning. The department's DEI steering committee is working to implement the governor's executive order issued in September of last year, which directs state departments to embed diversity, equity, and inclusion into their strategic plans. DCA's solid team is working with the DEI steering committee to develop DEI related questions for inclusion and environmental scan surveys and SWOT analyses to help guide the boards and bureaus in developing DEI related goals and objectives as part of their strategic plans. Sample DEI objectives will also be available and provided to further assist the boards and bureaus. Additionally, DCA is developing video messages from leaders to explain their perspective on DEI and how it relates to the board's roles as regulators and policymakers. Once these new DEI components have been finalized and approved, Solid will begin working with DCA's boards and bureaus on the development of new strategic plans or updating of existing strategic plans. We will keep your executive officer updated as more information becomes available. In addition, don't forget about the required board member trainings. Now is a great time to review all the necessary board member training and submit your certificates of completion to your executive officer and DCA at memberrelations@dca.ca.gov. There are 2 DCA-wide mandatory trainings for 2023. This includes sexual harassment prevention training and information security awareness. All DCA employees and appointees, including board members, will need to complete the sexual harassment prevention training. This training is required every odd numbered year and is approximately 2 hours. In addition, if you are assigned a DCA email, dca.ca.gov, you are required to complete the Information Security Awareness Fundamentals 2023 training. Information Security Awareness training addresses everyone's role in protecting DCA data and information. The training is online and required every year. Both the sexual harassment prevention training and information security awareness training are available in the department's learning management system, which we commonly refer to as LMS. Both trainings can be accessed online at any time. Earlier this month, an email was sent out with additional information about these trainings and how to access them. Board members must complete board member orientation training or BMONT within the first year of appointment or reappointment. Ethics training within 6 months of appointment and every 2 years thereafter, and defensive driver training within the first year and every 4 years. For your convenience, these trainings are offered multiple times a year in a variety of formats. For more information, a mandatory trainings page has been created to help members identify, access, and track specified trainings. The page includes direct links to mandatory trainings as well as pertinent information and policies specific to these training courses. The page is available via the DCA Board Member Resource Center page under Required Board Member Trainings. You can also reach out to myself, Yvonne Durantes. As we look ahead, please keep in mind the following. The COVID-19 state of emergency and associated executive orders will end on February 28th. Upon the state of emergency ending, the remaining active waivers that DCA issued under the authority of the state of emergency and executive orders will also expire. 2, don't forget to file your annual Form 700 by March 15th, 2023. Board and committee members are required to file a statement of economic interest or Form 700 within 30 days of their appointment annually and within 30 days of leaving office. This year's annual filing period covers the prior calendar year, January 1st through December 31st of 2022. The official deadline for filing is Friday, April 1st, 2023. To ensure compliance, DCA requests that Form 700 filers complete their e-filing by Friday, March 15th, 2023. You should have recently received an email from NetFile with instructions on how to file your annual Form 700. If you have any questions or would like more information, please feel free to contact me. As previously mentioned, board members must complete BMONT within 1 year of their appointment or reappointment. On March 22nd, 2023, BMONT will be offered as a live virtual day of training and possibly in person on June 20th and October 10th of this year. More information will be available soon. Members can sign up using LMS. Lastly, as I close, DCA and the BBR team look forward to working with and assisting you throughout this year. We are here to support you and the important work that you do. For example, I heard that there may be some interest about the board's budget responsibilities and the consequences of exceeding its budget and authority. I wanted to share that Ms. Harmony DiFilippo will briefly discuss this question during her budget update. I hope that you find that the information she shares is helpful. And if you should have any additional questions about the budget or anything else, please feel free to contact me. Reach out anytime. I would also like to take a moment to congratulate President Ward on his recent reappointment to the board. Congratulations. Thank you again for this opportunity, and I welcome any questions from the board.
Thank you so much for your time, Ms. Gear. Does anyone have any questions or comments?
I just have a question, if I could. On your DEI efforts, thank you for doing that, and thank you for the administration and DCA. Appreciate, applaud your efforts. Bravo. Is there a guideline or is there a policy already that you have that we can look at and work from, or do you want us to kind of create our own?
I'm sorry, we can't hear you.
I don't know.
Now we can. Try one more time. Thank you.
Okay. Problem. Sorry about that. So at this time, the DEI steering committee is working on the fact sheet and some of the information policies and things that we will be sharing hopefully soon. We were hoping to have the fact sheet ready to go. We're just tightening that up. And once that is available, we'll get that out to everybody. And that will hopefully help to inform your discussions as you move forward with your strategic plans and things of that nature.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I can't wait to see it. I'm very excited.
Any other questions or comments? Great. Thank you so much for your time, Ms. Gear. We appreciate it. Okay, I apologize. As you've probably already noticed, we're skipping around a little bit to accommodate some of our guests and attendees. We'll now move to review and take possible action on the board meeting minutes. If you're following along in the packet, it's on page 11. Can I have a motion to approve the December the 9th, 2022 board meeting minutes? Public comment. I'm sorry. Yes, I missed it. Sorry. Let's stop, go back. I want to take a moment to ask for public comment on the Consumer Affairs Department presentation.
Thank you. We have opened up the Q&A feature to facilitate public comment. If anyone has a comment on the DCA report, you may look for the question mark icon, click that, type the word comment in the text box and click send, or anyone may raise their hand to ask to be recognized by clicking on the hand icon. Is there anyone who would like to make a comment on the DCA report? I do not see any requests for comment, but Chair Ward, I did want to let you know that Member Serrano had her hand up for a time.
Oh, I missed that.
That's okay. Thank you, President Ward. I was going to suggest that if you are not speaking, to please mute yourself so we don't get feedback from speakers. Thank you.
Thanks for that reminder.
I have a comment on the meeting minutes.
Okay, so we'll move back to reviewing possible action on the board meeting minutes from December the 9th, 2022. This is on page 11, and it sounds like we have a comment from Secretary Gladstone.
Hi, everybody. I was misquoted. There's a sentence in the minutes that says that, quote, Mr. Gladstone commented as a licensed attorney that he is required to put his number on all of his advertisements and presentments. Actually, I said the opposite. I said I would not have a problem in the future if the state bar required me to do so. And then I said that we are currently not required to put our number on advertisements and presentments.
Brett,
So,
Secretary Gladstone, can you give staff the page number, please?
This is Laura. I've got it. Thank you for the change.
Okay, great.
So I would suggest you just delete what I said and start the sentence with Mr. Gladstone reminded the board that it requires landscape architects to do so, period. But I'll leave the deletion. That's just a suggestion. I'll leave the deletion up to you. Or you can reword it. Or you can reword it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have any other comments?
We have a raised hand from Ron Jones.
Thank you. Just a suggestion, President Ward, and I appreciate you identifying the pages that we're working on or working from. And since the agenda has moved around, it would be helpful to say what pages the agenda item starts on going forward. Thank you.
No, well taken. Thank you.
And Secretary Gladstone, did you want to have your hand raised or? Okay. Thank you. So no further comments from members, and there were no DCA comments, but we have not yet taken public comment on the minutes.
I think, Mr. President, there's likely going to be a motion, and we can take public comment on the motion.
Yes. May I ask for someone to move to approve the December the 9th, 2022 board meeting minutes as amended by Secretary Gladstone?
Nielsen Serrano, so moved.
Second, Ron Jones.
Thank you. Let's now move to public comments.
Thank you. And we're opening up the WebEx Q&A feature to facilitate public comment. If anyone has a comment on the motion or on the meeting minutes, you can look for the question mark icon, typically in the lower right of your WebEx screen, or behind the 3 other options if you're on a mobile device. And then type the word comment into the text box and click send. The other option is to raise your hand by clicking once on the hand icon. Each speaker will have 2 minutes to speak with a 30-second warning. Are there any comments on the minutes or the motion? I do not see any requests for comment. Shall I close the public comment feature?
Yes, please.
Thank you.
Secretary Gladstone, would you like to take a vote?
Yes. Sunny Ward,
Yes.
Tien Fang,
Yes.
Rick Gladstone, yes. Mitra Kanani. I'll come back. Sylvia Kwan,
Yes.
Ebony Lewis,
Yes.
Ron Jones,
Yes.
Robert Pearman,
Aye.
Nielsa Serrano,
Yes.
and Mitra Kanani. Well, we don't need that vote. We have a quorum. I mean, we have a majority for.
Do you hear me now?
I hear you now. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, we have all ayes. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move forward. By the way, congratulations, Vice President Ron Jones, and thank you for doing this with me. I appreciate it and all your help. Let's move forward to page 25 in your packet. This is going to be a presentation and a budget update from Harmony DiFilippo.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Harmony DiFilippo, and I'm the budget analyst with DCA. I would like to thank you for the opportunity to present the board with an update. Again, I will be speaking to agenda item G and the documents that are included. I will start with a quick overview of the projections, which is on page 25, if you want to share that on the presentation. Okay, so this report includes the 21-22 actual expenditures compared to the 22-23 budgeted and projected expenditures. Over the 2-year period, cost increased partially due from the board's business modernization efforts. For fiscal year 22-23, the board is projected to spend approximately $4,721,000, of which $2,569,000 is expended on personnel service costs and $2,152,000 on operating expenses and equipment, your OE&E. Next slide, please. The next slide is page 26, and this is the FM6 revenue projections. So this shows year-to-date and projected revenues, and I'll go over this in a little bit more detail on the next slide. The next slide, page 27, this is the fund condition. The attached fund condition statement is based off of the 2023 governor's budget and has been updated with fiscal month 6 projections. This also includes 2021-22 prior year actual revenues and expenditures, as well as out years, giving you a 5-year view. So I'll start with the first section on revenues. The board began 2021-22 with a fund balance of $4,610,000 and collected $4,371,000 in revenues, with $366,000 from initial license fees, $3,904,000 from license renewals, and $101,000 was collected from the issuance of citations, fines, delinquent fees, and other revenue. For 22-23 current year, the board is projecting revenues at $3,264,000, with approximately $362,000 projected from the initial license fees, $2,818,000 from renewal fees, and $84,000 from the issuance of the citations, fines, delinquent fees, and other revenue. You'll notice the revenue is projected with the historical high-low trend in the out years. I would also like to note that budget year 23-24 revenue includes the projected increase for the initial and renewal licenses. However, budget year +1 is based off of current year and will be updated during the next workload revenue drill and give us a better idea on how the regulatory fee increase will impact future revenues. The next section is expenditures. The board's 22-23 current year expenditures are projected based off of FM6 at $4,690,000, which includes reimbursements to the board shown at the bottom of the expenditure projections, as well as the revenue projections on pages 25 and 26. The fund condition projects outgoing expenditures with a 3% growth factor increase per year. The fund condition statement shows the board fully extending its appropriation ongoing. To the extent the board does not fully expend its appropriation, any savings remain in the board's fund, which help the reserve balance. The board notes future legislation or other events could require the board to request additional resources through the annual budget process, which would increase cost pressures on the fund. The last section is the fund balance reserve. The fund balance reserve is the amount of funds remaining at the end of any given fiscal year. The board's fund has a statutory fund balance limit of 24 months, but typically 3 to 6 months is considered sufficient. As previously noted, a typical structural imbalance occurs when projected revenues are less than anticipated expenditures. The board's fund balance reserve is currently declining due to a structural imbalance. This is due to increased expenditures outweighing the revenue and is more prevalent in the low years. The board had a historical reversion of at least $450,000. However, the board did not see savings in 2020-21, but the board has since started seeing savings again, starting with prior year 21-22, and is currently projecting current year savings at approximately $450,000. I would still note costs are projected to continue to increase from costs associated with business modernization. The board already began taking action to rectify the structural imbalance by voting to approve increasing the initial and renewal license fees from $300 to $400 through the regulatory process. This action is projected to increase revenues by approximately $1.1 million in the high years and $900,000 in the low years. Currently, we have no concerns with the fund, and as always, the Budget Office will continue to monitor and provide regular updates to the board's executive officer, Laura. I would also like to take a moment to speak about the board's fiduciary responsibility and the board's fund to provide some insight as requested and mentioned by Melissa Gear. Current law requires the board to remain viable and solvent. If a board is projecting to exceed current appropriation, the Budget Office would be working closely with the executive officer to mitigate beforehand and work to achieve savings where possible. The Department of Finance and the Budget Office would not allow a board to exceed their budget. We constantly monitor the fund, which provides the ability to address any concerns ahead of time. However, by law, if a board exceeded their budget, there is personal liability. However, I will note that this has never happened. But again, we are not worried about the board's fund, and as previously noted, the board has maintained historical reversions with the exception of 2020-21. The board's executive officer, Laura Zuniga, does an amazing job monitoring and ensuring expenditures are well within the board's appropriation. If more detail is needed or you have more questions, we could work with Laura to put together a budgetary training to provide more insight on the process and procedures. That concludes my presentation, and I'm available to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time and the presentation. Do any of our board members have any questions?
I do. Pearman?
Oh, there you are. Sorry, Robert, you weren't on the screen.
Yeah.
Board
Can
Member
you hear me
Pearman,
okay?
thank you. Yes, go ahead. Board Member Pearman, thank you.
Yes. So first in the, I think, page 27 of the PDF, saying BY +1, that reflects the projected increases. You mean the ones that have been approved through the regulatory process, such as the $300, $400 increase you mentioned in your presentation?
So those are reflected in budget year. Budget year +1 is currently projected to current year, so those will be updated when we do our workload revenue drill. And we'll get a better idea then for future revenues, how it will be impacted. But budget year does reflect that increase.
All right. So I guess just an editorial comment or a question for Laura. I thought that at the prior meeting, we were concerned about some immediate problem. The way I read these financials, it's really just a high-low situation. In the low, we might be $1 million under, but in the high, with the currently approved fee increase, we catch up. So it seems to me there should not be a concern or need to imminently impose new fees on our architect members, but perhaps you or Laura could comment on that understanding.
Hi, Robert, it's Laura. Yeah, so I think when we talked about this last year, we had more of a concern, and then kind of as we spent more time working with Harmony, working with the budget office, I looked at our expenses, we are more comfortable now. So, we'll need one in the future, but it's not urgent. So definitely the regulatory fee increase is going to help with that. As Harmony said, we'll kind of look and, see how the revenue comes in, and then, look and see if we need to ask for a change, but it's not anytime soon.
Great, thank you. Any more questions?
Ron Jones has his hand raised.
Sorry, I'm getting.
Yes, thank you.
Board Member Jones, thank you.
Thank you, President Ward. Mr. DiFilippo, thank you for your report. I guess my only question would be, you talked about the modernization expenses. When do we anticipate that changing? When do we see that? Is that beyond the +2 calendar year? When do you see that sort of reversing itself?
So it will go into a maintenance phase, and Laura may be able to provide the exact, more of a better timing on when that will move towards the maintenance phase. We're still in the process of implementation.
Okay, that's fine. But the assumption is that the maintenance fees will be less than the development costs. And is that a fair assessment without necessarily providing any numbers? We should see a reverse of that trend going forward at some point?
That's fair to say. Yeah.
Okay.
It's we're definitely in the highest point of spending, I would say, at this point. Once we finish the 18 months of the project and then go into the maintenance, it will definitely be a lower amount. There still is the ongoing costs, like Harmony mentioned. But yeah, it'll be perhaps more sustainable.
Thank you, Vice President Jones. I just have one question as well. I understand most of the spreadsheets until I just need a little bit more clarification on the fund balance reserve and concern at that line item. Can you explain that just a little bit more for me?
So you're looking at the fund balance reserve and kind of that downward trend.
Yes.
So this reflects that high-low. So it kind of gives, a higher reserve balance in some years and other lower. But if you look at it as an average, there is still a structural imbalance. But there's no immediate concern, kind of as Laura had stated. We're constantly monitoring and we'll continue to provide updates and again, see how the fee increases through that regulatory process will impact, kind of increase and impact the revenues for future. But as you can see in budget year +1 and budget year +2 is where you see the funds the months in reserve start to drop.
Sure. That's exactly my concern. And I mean, that's not that far off, by the way. So, okay. Thank you. Appreciate that. Any more questions? Okay, great. Let's move to public comment.
Thank you. We've opened up the WebEx Q&A feature to facilitate public comment. If anyone has any comment on the budget update, they may raise their hand by clicking on the hand icon, or they can look for the question mark icon, typically in the lower right of your WebEx screen, or behind the 3-dot other options if you're on a mobile device. Type the word comment into that text box and click send. Each speaker will have 2 minutes with a 30-second warning. Are there any comments on the budget update? I do not see any requests for comment. Shall I close the public comment feature?
Yes, please. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much for your time, Ms. DiFilippo. We appreciate it.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, moving along. Let me get my script back up. Okay, we're now going to move to page 28 in your packet. This is the hearing on the petition for reinstatement of license for Jacob Slater Bunting to be heard at 10:30. We're late already. One moment, sorry.
And this is the moderator. I am moving the participants up to the stage view, and Mr. Bunting is here and has the ability to mute and unmute at will, as our ALJ Jessica Wall and our DAG Anahita Crawford.
Yeah, and just a point of clarification, Jacob Slater Bunting is giving this presentation, so we'll turn it over to you now. Thank you.
Are we not?
Okay, so President Ward, I'm the ALJ here.
I'm so sorry. That's what I was
familiarity.
I was looking for my script. I apologize. Yes. Welcome.
I'm not sure what the board's familiarity with petition hearings are, but I like to go over with petitioners and everyone just to get some initial matters settled before we go on the record. I know we're recording this hearing with WebEx, but we also have a court reporter here who will take us on the record when we do begin the petition, because we need to establish a legal record in addition to this WebEx recording. So my initial questions for you, I generally check with boards about whether they would like the Deputy Attorney General, Ms. Crawford, to question the petitioner first, or whether the board would like to do its questions first.
Yes, and may I stop for just a moment, because I was fumbling through my screens and couldn't find my script, and I have it now, and I'd just like to read the summary before we get started. My apologies. So this is agenda item H, the hearing on petition for reinstatement of license for Jacob Slater Bunting. Pursuant to the California Administrative Procedures Act, the California Architects Board will consider a petition to reinstate the license in the matter of the accusation and decision against Jacob Slater Bunting. This will be a formal hearing. An administration law judge from the Office Administration Hearings will preside over the proceedings. Mr. Bunting will be present, and Deputy Attorney General Anahita S. Crawford will present the people of the state of California. The board will hear and consider evidence regarding Mr. Bunting's competence and rehabilitation as it relates to 1, the nature and severity of the acts which resulted in the revocation of his license, 2, the time that has elapsed since the commission of the acts, and 3, compliance with the terms of restitution and or other sanctions lawfully imposed. After this hearing, the board will enter into a closed session to consider and evaluate all competence evidence presented and render a decision in the matter of Mr. Bunting's petition. Okay, I apologize for dropping the ball on that, but now I think we'll go back over to the process, and honestly, I let you guys guide us on how best to do this.
All right, so let me just say, in my experience, President Ward, the boards I've sat with generally like the Deputy Attorney General to do the questions before we go to the board, and then each board member may ask the petitioner, and if he has any witnesses, ask them questions. Generally, board members are more familiar with the pronunciation of names, so I ask the president or secretary to do the polling when we do questioning. So would you prefer to do it, or would you like the secretary to do it?
Brett, Secretary Gladstone, would you mind doing that for us?
And I'll prompt you when it's time to do that.
Yeah, prompt me, and what you want me to do is just call out all members for comments. Okay,
Basically, go name by name, ask
Right.
them if they have any questions.
sure.
Okay. So the next thing I need to check with the board about is whether you intend to deliberate immediately after the petition or whether you intend to do other board matters before you deliberate.
Yes, we will immediately enter into a closed session.
Okay, great. Thank you. And Mr. Bunting, if I could have you, are you on camera? Let me see. You
Yes.
are. Okay. So I want to explain a little bit about the procedure to you before we go on the record. So I have Ms. Crawford present. Can I double check that Ms. Till is present and able to hear us?
I'm present and able to hear, thanks.
Thank you so much, Ms. Till. So, Mr. Bunting, how it goes is that we go on the record, establish that there is a quorum of the board members. We do have to do it again because it's a legal record. Then I go to Ms. Crawford, who will present your petition package and a brief history of the previous discipline. After that, well, let me say that you don't need to go into rereading anything you've submitted. The board members have had the benefit of reading your petition package.
Okay.
But Ms. Crawford, you'll have the opportunity to present your own testimony. Ms. Crawford will ask you some questions. I'll then poll the board members or have the secretary do it. They have the opportunity to ask you some questions. And after that, you have the opportunity to do something called redirect, which is to explain anything else that you thought was unclear after those questions.
Okay.
Do you have any witnesses other than yourself today?
No.
Okay. I think those are all of my questions. So do you have anything else that you would like to ask me before I take us on to our legal record?
I do not, but does a member of the board have a question before we proceed? No,
All right.
we're ready.
Mr. Bunting, any questions before we go on the legal record?
I do not.
Okay. All right. So I think that we are ready at this point. I want to use everyone's time efficiently. So Ms. Till, can we please go on the record? Thank you. We are here today to review one petition for reinstatement. This matter is being heard before the California Architects Board, Department of Consumer Affairs, State of California. Can I please get the secretary to do a poll of the board members to establish on the legal record that there is a quorum here today?
Sunny Ward,
Present.
Tian Feng,
Present.
Brett Gladstone here, Mitra Kanani,
Present.
Sylvia Kwan,
Present?
Ebony Lewis,
Present.
Ron Jones,
Present.
Robert Kierman,
Present.
Nilsa Serrano.
Present.
Thank
All
you, Secretary
present.
Gladstone. A quorum of the board is present. My name is Jessica Wall. I'm an administrative law judge with the Office of Administrative Hearings, and I've been assigned to preside over this matter today. We are here in the matter of the petition for reinstatement of Jacob Slater Bunting, agency case number 17-04-089, OAH case number 2023020134. May I please take the appearance of the Deputy Attorney General?
Anahita Crawford, Deputy Attorney General.
Thank you, Ms. Crawford. And Mr. Bunting, you are here representing yourself. Good morning.
Good morning.
So I'm going to issue some instructions to you on the record. In this proceeding, the board is concerned with hearing about any rehabilitation you have done since your license was disciplined. We'll have Ms. Crawford go first to present your petition package and provide a background in this matter. After that, you will have an opportunity to make your presentation. I want to remind you that the board has had the benefit of reading your petition packet, and you do not have to repeat items within that packet. You will then be subject to questioning by Ms. Crawford and the board. After the hearing, the board will go into closed session to deliberate. You will not receive a decision today. It will be mailed in the future. Do you have any questions, Mr. Bunting?
No.
Thank you. So I'm now going to go to Ms. Crawford.
Thank you, Your Honor. Did you receive our exhibit package?
I did.
Okay. Your Honor, I am appearing on behalf of the Attorney General pursuant to Government Code Section 11522 on behalf of the people of the state of California. I am here to assist the panel in fact-finding, and my role is not adversarial, but is intended to protect the public interest. I'm here to ensure that the panel has adequate information from which to make a decision. I'd like to provide a brief background of this case. The petitioner was issued his architect license number C33928 on October 8th of 2012. That license expired on March 31st, 2019. An accusation was filed on March 14th of 2018, and the petitioner surrendered his license effective April 5th of 2019. The accusation alleged that in 2016, the petitioner was convicted of sexual acts with a minor. He was sentenced to 6 years in prison and ordered to register as a sex offender. Petitioner had met the 14-year-old minor through church, where he was a teacher, and had reached out to the minor in a mentoring capacity due to the recent loss of the minor's father. Over the next 2 years, petitioner communicated with the minor daily. Petitioner had began a sexual relationship with the minor by the time she was 16. The minor was confronted by petitioner's wife, and petitioner was eventually arrested for his conduct. While out on bail, he met the minor again on March 9, 2016, in violation of court orders, and was arrested and ultimately convicted. Your Honor, I do have an exhibit packet that I would like to introduce at this time with 4 exhibits.
Yes, please. Thank you.
The first is the amended notice of hearing for today's hearing date. I would like to have that marked and introduced.
All right. So I'm going to check with Mr. Bunting about admission. So I recognize you're not an attorney, but you have the right to object to any questions or documents moved for admission. If you have any objection, just state the word objection. I will walk through with you whether it rises to the level of a legal objection. Right now, Ms. Crawford has moved for admission of Exhibit 1, which is the amended notice of hearing. Do you have any objection to admission of Exhibit 1?
No objection.
Thank you. Exhibit 1 is admitted.
Exhibit 2 is the licensure certification for the petitioner that would like to mark and admit at this time.
Mr. Bunting, any objection to Exhibit 2?
No objection.
Thank you. Exhibit 2 is admitted.
Exhibit 3 is Mr. Bunting's petition for reinstatement along with the attachments to that petition. Would like to mark and admit that at this time.
Mr. Bunting, any objection to admission?
No objections, no.
Thank you. Exhibit 3 is admitted. And I didn't make this point yet, but because we're making a legal record and everything we say is being recorded by a court reporter, we have to speak one at a time. If there's any crosstalk to people speaking at once, it makes a really unclear record. So there has to be a brief pause between every question and answer. Thank you. Exhibit 3 is admitted into evidence.
And 4 contains the disciplinary documents, which are the decision and order, the stipulated surrender, and the underlying accusation. We would like to mark and admit those at this time.
Mr. Bunting, any objection to admission of Exhibit 4?
No objections.
Thank you. Exhibit 4 is admitted.
Thank you, Your Honor. At this time, I do not have any further evidence to present.
Thank you, Ms. Crawford. So now, Mr. Bunting, we're going to turn it over to you. Before you can testify and introduce your petition packet and talk about why you're moving for reinstatement, I need to swear you in under oath. Can you please raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you will provide in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth under penalty of perjury?
Yes.
Thank you. Please state and spell your full name for the record.
Jacob Slater Bunting. Jacob Slater, Slater. Bunting, Bunting.
Thank you, Mr. Bunting. So this is now your opportunity to present your case, testify on your own behalf, and talk to the board members about why you brought this petition. You don't have to ask yourself questions. You may testify in the narrative. So you may begin.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm grateful for the chance to come before the board. I truly do feel horrible for what had happened. And unfortunately, I can't change the past. I could just learn from it and move forward and be prepared for the future. But I do understand that I have caused great harm, not only to the victim, but also to myself and my career and my personal life and the life of my kids. And it's just really bad situation. And I've been trying to make amends ever since. And in fact, I am actually grateful that I went to prison because it got me out of the situation and was able to clear my head. And I have been working with Christina Bennett. She is a counselor, a psychotherapist who specializes in sexual deviant people or people that have offended through sexual means. I've been working with her for 5 years or so since the incident, and she's been helping me to understand what went wrong and what my behavior was and what I can do to prevent any kind of future behavior. And she's been a really good asset for that. And I haven't actually seen her since, when was it, 22? I think it was like around May of 2022. She said that I didn't need to have any more sessions and that that she hasn't seen my life this stable the entire time that I was going through the whole incident. But I believe that my supporting documents that I've submitted pretty much speak for themselves. I have many testimonies in there that confirm not only my competence as an architect, but my desire to clean up my life and clean up my record of who I am. And I just want to keep the record straight that's just wasn't me, and it should never have happened. Since the time that I submitted those documents, I've also been able to regain the full membership in my church. I belong to the Church of Jesus Christ Latter-day Saints, and during that time, my membership was revoked because of my acts. But I've been working with my clergy there, and I've been able to regain full membership of the church, and I hope to soon receive opportunities to serve in the memberships and other people. I've also been able to reclaim my parental guardianship over my daughter, and I continue to have meaningful parent time with her. I continue my employment with Kelly Architecture and Planning. I've become a great asset over there. We're kind of going through a restructuring of our CAD standards and how we put together drawing sets, and I'm an integral part of that. It's an ongoing process. I think all architects can understand that. I'm not only that, but I have 2 prominent clients that I'm the project manager for, and I maintain or manage all of the projects from these two clients that we have. I have been mentoring 2 employees that we have in our office that want to get their license, and I've been mentoring. I've met with them a couple of times and hope to continue setting up lunch meetings with them to discuss the ARE requirements and testing and other things like that. Also, I'm still receiving outside of work requests for residential work as kind of side work that I've been doing. I truly believe that, you know, Christina Bennett said it best in her letter. She said, it became clear that it was an isolated incident and not connected to a deviant pattern. Additionally, since that time, you have become far more assertive and involved in what appears to be a healthy marriage. Positive relationships is perhaps the most important factor connected to pro-social adjustments. You utilized your time in psychotherapy well, and the trajectory remains positive. That's a quote from her, and it's in her letter that I submitted. Again, should never have happened, but and I can't change that now. All I can do is move forward and prove that you know, I've rehabilitated myself, and I think the time and the evidence that I've presented here from other people's perspectives, that I'm personally not a threat or danger in any way, and that I can perform the functions and duties authorized by the license.
Thank you, Mr. Bunting. Is there anything else that you would like to add to your testimony before I allow Ms. Crawford to ask you some questions?
Not at this time.
All right, Ms. Crawford, do you have any questions for the petitioner?
I do, thank you. Mr. Bunting, are you still on any kind of probation or parole from your conviction?
No, I was released in 2020. Wait, when was I released? No, I was released in 2018. It was a 1 year probation. It was a 1 year probation, and I completed that.
One-year probation after your release?
Yes.
In your letter to the board, in your petition packet, you stated that you are working diligently to make amends to those that you have harmed. Can you describe what steps you've taken to do that?
Certainly. There's currently still a restraining order between me and the victim, and I've honored that, and I've stayed away from her, and we have never had any communications between me and her, and that relationship is over anyway. But the other people that I've hurt, including my ex-wife and my kids, and I've been working towards my relationship with each one of my kids. My daughter is actually coming this weekend to spend time with me. She's flying in, even though it's snowing in Utah and raining here, and the plane's delayed. But she's coming this weekend to spend time with me. I've been fully paid up on all of my financial obligations to my ex-wife as far as custody concerns. I've just working on myself to make sure that you know, just cleaning up what has been done and so it won't happen again. Yeah.
The victim in this underlying case was an individual who was a member of your church. Was it this Latter-day Saints church that you're currently a member of?
The Church of Jesus Christ, Latter-day Saints, yes.
Yes, I'm sorry. Okay. Is it the same church?
Yes.
And is she still a member of that church?
Not that I know of. I don't know. I haven't had contact with her.
Okay. Do you know if any of her family members are still a member of your church?
I do believe so, but we're in different areas now and we don't attend the same building.
Okay. What by building do you mean a physical structure in a particular city?
Yes.
Okay, and what city do you go to in order to worship at the church?
We go to a building in Roseville where the incident happened up in Lincoln.
And it's your belief that her family may still be going to the church in Lincoln?
It's possible, yes.
Okay. What steps, if any, have you or the church taken to ensure that you and the victim paths don't cross during your membership in the church?
The church, you mean back in 2015 or
No,
now?
now that your membership has been, you've got your full membership back,
Okay.
what steps are you and the church taking?
I have been working with my local bishop and his, the next step up is called the stake president. So I've been working with my bishop and my stake president, and I've interviewed with them. They've had me do just kind of watch me, made sure that I am who I say that I am, and then I don't have any deviant desires, But on top of that, we've in order to get my membership back, we had to put together a packet and submit it to the presidency of the church back all the way in Utah. The president of the entire church had to review my packet. And that packet included letters from the victim, letters from my ex-wife, letters from myself. I wrote a letter. Other supporting documents included my criminal history and any other pertaining items that the bishop or stake president wanted to include, which I'm not privy to. But we sent that to the president of the entire church, and they were able to review it, and they were able to approve my membership.
You said that package included letters from the victim in order to get your membership approved. Who obtained the letter from the victim?
It was not me. It was done through the stake president level. So the stake president reached out to her bishop, who reached out to her. I don't know. I was not involved in the process. I never read the letter. I wasn't involved. It was the stake president that took care of that.
Okay. One of the things that you've told this board is that you've taken the steps to ensure that something like this doesn't happen again. How can you provide some assurance to the board that it won't happen again when you are back at the same church and you are seeking to take on the same roles you did before, which was somewhat of a teacher and community provider?
Yeah, excellent question. Sorry, what was the question?
Yeah, you've assured the board that this incident wouldn't happen again. But what brought this incident to fruition was that you were a member of this same church and you were in a position where you were a mentor, you were a community provider, and that's how you gained access to this particular young lady. So how can you assure the board that this incident in fact won't happen again even though you're right back into the situation that you were when these charges came to light?
Okay, yes. So that was, part of my I believe Christina Bennett, she was a really good asset for me to understand what happened, why it happened, how it happened, and because it's more clear to me, I can see what led up to it, and I can prevent it from moving forward. That's one thing. And I have no criminal history before this one incident. I have never had any criminal history after this incident. It is like, Christina Bennett, I keep going back to her, but she's specializes in this behavior, and said that it's clear to her that it's become a single case incident, and not connected to any kind of pattern.
And I can certainly appreciate that. But from another perspective that the board had, this was an incident that lasted about 2 years. It wasn't really a single solitary thing that happened. So what did you learn in your therapy that would prevent such a thing from happening again? You said you've come to some realizations about what happened. Can you share some of that about how you know this incident won't happen again because you've got safety precautions in place?
One more thing to add from your previous question is that the church is putting a annotation on my record saying that I cannot serve in the youth at all. So that's just one thing that the church is doing. That was on your previous question. Additionally, with this, yeah, there was just some things that were going on between my ex-wife and I in our relationship, and how this particular person, I don't know how much detail you want me to go into, but I developed a relationship with this individual because my relationship with my wife wasn't thoroughly founded. Now I'm remarried, and I have my wife. In fact, she's here with me right now listening. She's been an amazing, amazing woman to me. I think just we're talking to our bishop, and we're hoping to go into counseling soon, just as a couple, so that we can form a strong connection between the two of us, and so that we can I just have no secrets with her. And that's like pretty much the biggest thing is I have no secrets with my wife at all. And we are a complete team in everything that we do.
Thank you for sharing that. I want to talk a little bit about some of the work you've been doing with, is it Kelly Architecture?
Yes.
So what are some of your job duties there on, for example, the 2 prominent cases that you have? You said you're responsible for. What are some of your job duties on that?
I've been managing the projects. I've been putting, I put together drawing sets, so I'm doing all the drafting and all of the CAD work, and I go out to the project sites, and right now we have 2 projects that are under construction, and one other one that's in permit right now. And so I'm reviewing a lot of the RFIs. I'm responding to the RFIs. I'm responding to all of the submittals. I'm keeping track of the construction team. We're doing the construction meetings every week, and I'm doing the meeting minutes for that. During the design process, I was coordinating with all of the engineers on the design, keeping up with the timeline to make sure that it's done and within budget and within a time frame. I'm not doing much of the budget side. That's my boss that's doing the budgeting, but it's, I'm doing all of the construction drawings and submitting and comment letters, and now I'm handling all the construction meetings and RFIs and submittals.
Excuse me. And then you also said that you're also taking up some side projects. Is that through Kelly Architecture or something you're doing on your own?
That's something I'm doing on my own. I've helped a friend do a house addition. There was another house that was in Woodland that I've been helping another person. That was an interesting project. That's been going on forever, but they probably should have just tore down the house and rebuilt it. It would have been easier. But now I have another request from someone else that wants to do a standalone garage with apartment above, and I haven't had a chance to talk to him yet, but it's something that he requested that I might get going on pretty soon.
Okay. So how would getting your license back allow you to do things that you can't right now do?
Well, right now I can only, do the residential on the side, and that's, I'm not going to do a bunch of other side work than probably residential. Just, I don't do a whole lot of side work, but as an architect, that's going to help me a lot in my job and in my career. I know that Kelly wants to label me as a project architect, but he can't right now because I don't have a license. But he's anticipating me getting my license back so that we can. He's planning on putting me back on salary and putting me back on change my label from project manager to project architect and have me put on more responsibilities, but I can't right now because I don't have my license.
Okay. Now, you stated that you'd been going to counseling for about 5 years. How often were you seeing your therapist before you went to prison?
I haven't seen her for over a year now. We keep in contact in case-by-case basis. If I need to reach out to her, she's there for me. But when I was meeting with her, it was pretty much once a month. Every once in a while, we'd skip a month because of scheduling and things. But it was from like 2015 when I started talking to her before I went to prison. I met with her about once a month during that time. And then after I got back, I went straight back to seeing her again. And that was for another couple of years. Again, that was probably once a month, maybe once every other month by that point, and then kind of faded longer and longer after a while.
And who's currently, I know you mentioned your wife, who's currently in your support network?
Oh yeah, definitely my wife. But I also have my parents. They have been there for me through this entire process. My parents, my sister's been a really big help. I have some few friends that know what happened and they're supporting me. I know that's one thing that Christina Bennett was really wanting me to have, is that network of support so that, you know, at the time, back with when I was with my ex, I had no support. All I had to, you know, I had no one. But now I have my wife, I have my sister, I have my parents, I have several different friends. I have, in fact, I have one of my coworkers, Steve Jones. He's a really good friend of mine that I could turn to as well.
Thank you. I don't have any other questions.
Thank you, Ms. Crawford. And now I'm going to turn to the board to see if they have any questions. If I could have the secretary please poll each member to check with each of them if they have questions from the petitioner.
This is Brett Gladstone. Sunny Ward, do you have any questions?
Yes. I'd just like to ask Mr. Bunting if any of his current work that he does, if he finds himself in places or positions with people that are underage. Like, are there any circumstances in your work environment where you're alone or not alone with minors?
No. I do in our office. We predominantly do healthcare, and I suppose I might work in a children's facility or a children's wing. But my boss knows what happened. He knows what the case is, and I'm. If he tried to put me in a position like that, I'd be like, well, I don't want to do this. I'm not comfortable doing that. That would be my response to him.
Thank you. I have one more follow-up question. You stated that your probation was completed. I'm not familiar with how this process works, but when probation ends, are there further, like, is there like a minor probation that you remain on? Are there stipulations for staying off probation? Or is it a clean release?
No, it's a clean release. Once I'm done with the sentencing, they put me on a probation, or in some situations they keep me on a parole, which is parole is by state, probation is by county. So sometimes they put me on a parole, which they didn't do in my case because it was a nonviolent and a very low type crime. They put me on a 1 year probation. Many times it's longer, but mine was just a 1 year. Once I completed that, then I'm done with all my legal responsibilities.
Thank you.
Tian Fang, do you have any questions?
Yeah, one question, Mr. Bunting. With regards to do outside work, you mentioned mainly residential related. Do you aware of your client actually know you are not currently licensed?
Yes, I do make sure that they understand that. Yeah.
That's my question.
Okay. I'm going to ask a couple questions. Wait, Mr. Bunting, I am an attorney, and I'll try to respect the fact that you don't have an attorney there, and make this as easy as I can. First of all, are there any organizations that you've sought to return to since the time you left prison that have not allowed you back? And if so, why not?
Actually, no, I haven't. I've see what organizations I've tried to gain membership back into my church, and that was, as I've noted, it's been approved. Other organizations, what other organizations? I'm contemplating being part of the HOA for my home ownership. I haven't submitted for that application, but that's something that I'm thinking about doing. But there really hasn't been any other memberships that I've seeked after, and yeah.
And so none that you've sought a membership in since your conviction, other than this license and the church, correct?
Yeah, that's about it.
Okay, just to the best of your recollection. Thank you. Another question: our board's goals are protection of the public, and do you think your representation, your work for individuals or companies were negatively affected by the event for which you were convicted?
Yes. The organization that I worked for at the time, that the architect firm that I worked for at the time, they had a big loss, especially when I was arrested and I was taken out of the firm, and all of my clients and all of my job duties were just suddenly disappeared. I'm sure they had to definitely scramble for that, and I'm sure that was possibly a hit on the clients themselves, because they were kind of probably, I don't know, I'm just kind of contemplating, like they may have been like, well, what's going on with this architect firm? Can I trust them because of my actions? So yes, there was definitely an effect there.
Okay. Thank you very much. I'll call the next person, Mitra Kanani.
Yes, do you hear me? Sorry.
Mitra, go ahead. We can hear you, although there's a little echo.
Yes, I know. I'm just quickly asking if there is a requirement that you, Mr. Bunting, to report when he changes job or location.
There is a requirement if I change residence, if I move to a new house, that I inform the police station at that location, but that's the only thing I have to report.
Any other questions? Other questions, Mitra? Okay. Sylvia Kwan, do you have any questions?
Two questions, Mr. Bunting. First one is, from the description of your current job duties and also your status, it sounds like you are a consultant to them rather than a full-time employee. Did I assume that correctly?
No, I'm an hourly paid employee.
Oh, okay, because you mentioned, salary again and all that, but that's interesting. So, being an employee and even as an hourly employee, they are okay with you taking side jobs, huh? That's interesting. You made an agreement with them on that?
Yeah, in fact, the one person I mentioned, Steve Jones, he actually brought me one of the clients.
So interesting. I guess it's because the fact that you're not licensed, so I guess the responsibility of whatever you do as a non-licensed practitioner does not go back to the firm. Usually that's the concern about moonlighting, they call it.
Yeah.
So I guess they can't trace it back to it. That's really interesting. Maybe that's a sidebar. I find that kind of interesting that they are going, yeah, go ahead, somewhere else, even though you're under their, under their payroll. The second question I have is regarding something you said about your support, your family and so forth. And you mentioned right now you've got support of your parents, your sister, of course, your wife, etc. But you didn't have any of that with your previous marriage. I'm curious.
Can you speak up? Can you speak up a little, Sylvia? A little closer to the mic.
Let me see. I'm gonna try to. Okay. Let me see if I can. Okay. Is this any better?
Yes.
I'm sorry. Let me start over with second question. You mentioned that you have a really good support system now with your current wife, your parents, your sister, and so forth, and you didn't have it in your previous marriage. Can you explain why you felt that I don't know if it's way too personal, but why your parents and your sister weren't part of the support group then, when it obviously sounded like you needed them?
No, excellent question. That is getting into like the personal aspects of it, and that's fine because that's I'm open right now. I have no secrets. Part of it, and it took some therapy to understand all of this, but part of the problem was that my ex-wife was very controlling, and she didn't let me see my family very often, and they really weren't part of my life during that part of my life. It wasn't until after the divorce that I was able to have more open relationship with my parents and my sister.
That really explains a lot, so we don't have to come to our own conclusions about what was going on. So thank you for that explanation. I appreciate it. That's all I have.
Ebony Lewis.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. So Anahita, did I say your name right? Ask you a question, and I'm still unclear about your response. So we are a Consumer Protection Board. I am a public governor appointed board member, and I want to know from you, not from your therapist, not from Christina and what she wrote, how do we as a board know that you will not repeat the same behavior or act again?
A big part of that is I have no more secrets. At the time, I kept things to myself. I kept secrets from my wife, ex-wife. I kept things hidden, inside of myself because my wife didn't let me do anything. But that's not an excuse. I'm not trying to say that's an excuse. Because of what I've been through, all of the pain that it caused, pain that I caused myself, pain that I caused people that I truly cared about, my family, my loved ones, my kids, going to prison, having to deal with just all of the emotions that went along with all of that. I'm not going to go through that again. Not going to. I do understand now what happened, why it happened, and I know how to prevent it. And I am much, much happier now.
Okay.
Any other questions, Ebony?
No, that's
Okay.
it for me. Thank you.
Ron Jones, do you have any questions?
Yes, thank you, Secretary Gladstone. Mr. Bunting, again, thank you for being here this morning. You mentioned some of the reasons that you think that you would not reoffend. I'm curious to know what are some of your techniques and some of the tools that you've developed. I mean, obviously, avoiding the presence of minors, I think, would be one thing. Talk a little bit about some of the other tools and techniques that you've developed in some of your therapy sessions and some of your other programs, if you would.
Yeah, just having a open relationship with my wife, having a support group with my sisters, having an open relationship with my parents, keeping myself away from minors. And like I mentioned, if I ever have to, be in that position, at my office, we don't do schools, and I never want to work for a firm that does schools. That's not something I'm ever interested in doing anyway, because of what I've been through, I can see the stages of what happened, and I can sense my life going in that same direction. I can prevent that.
No further questions. Thank you.
Okay, Robert Pearman, do you have any questions?
No questions.
No questions. And Nilsa Serrano.
I just have one question. If your license is returned, are you mandated by the state or the government agency that you went to prison for? Are they requesting that you monitor your you being around children?
Not that I know of. I don't believe they are. I am the only legal requirement that I have right now is to maintain from the local police department that they know where I live.
Thank you.
Mr. President, that's all the members. I have a question I forgot to ask you. Do you mind if I ask it?
That's fine, Mr. Gladstone. You can ask an additional question.
Okay. The question I had is, had you had any other complaints to you, complaints to the board rather, about your activities in your professional life?
No.
And last question, what do you do these days to de-stress in this busy, complicated life we live in?
Good question. Actually, I love working on. I have a home server that I've created. It's called Home Lab, and I love building my computer systems in my home lab that I do, creating an online server so I can access my music and my other things that I have. But on top of that, I also love going out with my wife and going swimming, going hiking, and doing things with my brother. We're planning on going on a hike up in the mountains this summer once the weather gets better. But that's what I like to do.
Okay, thank you for your forthrightness.
Your Honor, may I ask one more question?
Yes, that's fine.
Mr. Bunting, I have just one more follow-up question. And my experience with recovery from, personal issues, psychological issues, addictive behaviors, is that recovery is an ongoing ongoing process that requires work and dedication. Do you consider this incident in your life something that you need to recover from? And if so, are you willing to continue to put the work in to continue the recovery?
In the sense of recovery, as in an alcoholic desires to drink, or someone that's trying to stop drug smoking, wants to, has that impulse to continue that life. No, that's not what the situation is. But I do see the sense of protecting myself from further behavior, and not like it's a desire for me, but it's something that is important to me. And I mentioned earlier that I want to have counseling with my wife. We want to go into family counseling, and I'm working with my bishop, local bishop, for that.
Okay, great. That was my follow-up question, which was to that question, which is, you mentioned that you stopped therapy with your psychotherapist a couple years ago, and so you just answered my question, which is that it sounds like you're willing and looking forward to more counseling, whether it be with your religious leaders or other professionals.
Yes.
Is that true? Thank you. Okay, thank you.
All right, so my understanding is that that is all of the board's questions. I'd like to check with Ms. Crawford whether the board's questions gave her any additional questions before I go back to Mr. Bunting for redirect.
Yes, Your Honor. A few of the board members did touch on this that I don't think I received a response to earlier. Mr. Bunting, you said that because you're in a better relationship and have more support, that what led you down that path with the minor would not happen again. And there was two aspects, I think, of your behavior. One was you were not happy and therefore unfaithful to your wife, but the person you were unfaithful with was a minor. So I understand that you were unhappy that led you to look elsewhere. But how have you rehabilitated from the fact that the place you looked was someone who was 14 or 15 years old when you were in your mid-30s?
Yeah, and I have had this conversation with Christina Bennett, and it honestly it could have been anyone, but the fact that it was a minor, she's, and then this is getting back into some of the personal aspects of what happened. She actually reached out to me because she was suicidal and she was seeking support, and that kind of led us into talking online and becoming friends and yada yada. But I didn't understand what I was doing at that point. I still remember for this day, like thinking, oh, if we get caught, we could just talk to, we'll just explain it and they'll understand. It's like, well, it doesn't work that way. And I didn't understand that at that point.
So at that time, the judgment that you had, that judgment didn't encompass the wrongful conduct between yourself and the minor?
No, it didn't, and that was why I was saying I'm grateful that I actually went to prison, because it got me out of the situation and got me back into like rational thinking.
Okay, thank you.
Are those all of your questions, Ms. Crawford?
Yes, Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Bunting. So this is the final stage of your testimony. If there's anything else that you would like the board to consider when it's making a decision on your petition, now's the time. I also want to check with you. We have all of the documents you intend us to consider, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And let me just check with you also on the record. You don't have any additional witnesses that you're calling in support of your petition. Is that correct?
I'm sorry, what was that?
You're not calling any additional witnesses other than yourself in support of your petition, correct?
No, no additional witnesses.
All right. So now is your time. This is your final opportunity while you're under oath to give the board your reasons for submitting the petition.
Again, I'm really grateful that we're able to come together today and have this petition for reinstatement. Again, I believe what we've said here. Hopefully, it's clear to everyone that it was. I understand what I did was wrong, and I'm taking steps to not allow that to happen again in my life. Through the time that has passed since that time, I've been working towards, regaining my relationship with my kids, regaining my status as an architect, as a father, as a member of my church, and that I'm working with my church and others to like my church isn't saying that they're not allowing me to, not necessarily allowing, but they understand they're not allowing me to work with youth, and I don't need that. And so I'm not gonna be in position to be around youth, and I'm taking steps to prevent that. But again, I understand what I did was not right, and I believe I can move forward as a licensed architect now, and not have any other further situations like this. So, thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Mr. Bunting. And now I'm just going to check with both Ms. Crawford and you if there's any closing remarks. Ms. Crawford?
No closing remarks, Your Honor.
Thank you. Mr. Bunting, anything in closing before we close the record and submit the matter?
No, thank you.
Right. That concludes the petition hearing in this matter. The case is submitted and the record is closed. We are off the record, and since this is the only petition, we don't need to go to the next one. So let me check with our court reporter. Ms. Till, could you give me the estimated number of pages and end time?
Yes, 45 pages and end time is 11:51.
Do you need any names or spellings from anyone here before I let you go?
No, I don't. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Till. I appreciate your time today.
Thank you.
So, President Ward, I am done with the hearing part of this. We can let the petitioner go. We do have to go into closed session to deliberate. I understand that we've been going nonstop since about 10 a.m. Some people have been here earlier, so sometimes boards like to take a break before we move into deliberation. So how would you like to handle that?
Yes, that is exactly what I was about to suggest. First of all, thank you, Your Honor, for walking us through that. That was perfectly elegant and nice of you. Thank you. But I would like to suggest that we take a 5-minute bio break, and then we return to closed session.
Okay, thank you. And your staff will have to assist with, because closed session, there are very few people that can be part of it. It's really board and few members of staff and me. Everyone else will have to be removed. Sometimes there are special permissions that have to be put into place. I trust the DCA staff.
Yes, they're going to
handle
take great care of us. And just a point of clarification for our staff, we don't take public comments at this point, correct?
That's correct, Mr. President. This is Michael
Okay.
Knoch from Legal Counsel.
So do I need to how do we go into closed session? Do we just state that we're now taking a break and that we will go into closed session and that we will return? I need to do the timing here. I'm assuming it's hard for us to know how long we will be in closed session. Is that correct?
In my experience, it varies based on what the board members discuss and questions and sometimes debates within them.
Mr. Canitz, what do you recommend we tell the public as far as coming back into open session?
You know, honestly, you did it quite perfectly. I think is to say the return time, and that upon returning from the break, we'll be moving immediately into closed session, and closed session will end, and we'll come back on the record at that point and decide where to move from there.
Okay, so I don't need to give an estimate of the time that we'll come back into open session.
No, and to be honest, it really depends on the amount of debate. And
okay, great. Okay, everyone, it's 11:52. Let's take a 5-minute break at 11:57. We'll come back online and actually let's go into closed session now. Who is going to be the moderator in closed session?
I see that Mr. Bunting is here and raised his hand. Mr. Bunting, you are free to go. I just want to make that clear because you absolutely cannot be in closed session.
Yeah, and I understand that. I just wanted to see if I need to stay by for any other further deliberation or questions.
I'm so sorry, Mr. Bunting. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
We'll release you now. Thank you.
Thank you.
And this is the moderator. I propose that I can take the break time to remove people who do not need to be in the closed session so that when you come back from your break, you will only have the people who need to be there. And
Great.
Drew Liston is going to be your temporary host once I leave.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Okay. I'll see you guys at 11:57.
Thank you.
So I'm just going to call the members that we think or know are here, and that's Charles Ward.
Present.
Mitra Kanani.
I don't think she was leaving.
Mitra.
I can see her.
Yes.
Mitra, can you hear us?
She can hear us.
Oh, no, not again. No, she's
Oh,
on
my.
mute. That's why. She's on mute.
Well, but can she hear us? Because that keeps being the problem with her.
Yeah.
Mitra,
Mitra?
can you hear us?
Plus, she's on mute.
Can you hear us?
Yeah, she can hear us.
She said yes.
Okay.
So tell her to
Does that
unmute.
count? Okay, there you are.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah.
We were afraid you couldn't hear us.
You guys have muted me.
Okay. Okay, so Nilsa Serrano.
Yes. And is it going to confuse the consumer if they see Brett logged in? And is there a way for the moderator to release his name from a panelist?
We certainly can put him back down into the audience, and I
Sure.
will do that now.
That, Madam Moderator, please.
All right, done. Thank you.
Okay. Did I call Nilsa Serrano? Robert Pearman?
Aye, present.
Ron Jones? And Sylvia Kwan?
Present.
We can proceed. We have a quorum.
Okay, welcome back. We're going to reconvene this session now, and we're going to move straight into our executive officer's report. Over to you.
Just to give members an update, there are a few items that were on the agenda we're going to postpone until the May meeting due to scheduling issues. So the outreach presentation from NOMA is going to be in May. And then the second item under the executive officer report, which was an enforcement presentation, will also push to the May agenda. So I'm just going to go over the executive officer report now. And then I'm sorry, we also had the NCARB resolution, the governance resolution on the agenda. Sunny, the president, will send it to a committee to have a discussion of the resolution and report back at the May board meeting. Okay, so on to the executive officer's report. So starting on the first page, we have an update on business modernization. I know I've talked about this a lot, but we're getting close. So we're in, I guess, user acceptance testing of the first release of the project. So that's tentatively scheduled for mid to late March. So we would have at that point our ARE eligibility application, the California supplemental exam application, and the initial license application available online. So applicants can fill it out and submit it completely online. So once we know for sure when it's going to be available, we'll start publicizing it. We're still doing the testing and ironing out the kinks. The staff's been working really hard. DCA staff is going to train our staff early next month on using the new system. So we are making progress. So on to page 2, personnel update. We had a promotion in the office, which was great. I did post the vacant assistant executive officer position. So that's closed and I'm going to interview candidates next month. Then we have information on outreach. So we've done outreach on zero net carbon design. We attended a licensure process outreach presentation with NCARB late last year, and I also attended one in person at USC last month and attended with staff a workshop hosted by NCARB with licensing advisors throughout the state. We have our social media information and then an update on our regulations. So we actually had a lot of success in regulations recently. So our retired license regulation is complete and we are now issuing retired licenses again. So it's been a couple of years. So we publicized that and been getting a lot of interest. Our fee increase was approved. So that's going to take effect July 1st. So we will start publicizing that within the next month to licensees. We mail renewal notices 90 days in advance. So they'll have the new information shortly going out. Our disability access regulations on the existing regulatory requirement also went into effect. And staff continue to work on the zero net carbon design regulations. And then there's an update on LATC regulations, and we have one item we'll take up shortly that needs board action. And then going into the exam stats, you can see on page 8 of the report, starting with the CSE exam. The CSE, the pass rate is 77% for first-time test takers, which is pretty good. And then underneath that, you can see the ARE pass rate by division. We don't have a comparison to last year, but I feel like they're trending a little bit higher. You can see the comparison on the next page between California and the national pass rates. And then after that, we have statistics for the landscape architect CSE exam, as well as their national exam in a comparison. Following that, at the bottom of page 10, we have the most common violations, which is pretty consistent as the top areas. And then a chart on complaints and enforcement actions. And then on page 12, similar information for landscape architect complaints and enforcement actions. And then a summary of the enforcement actions taken in the last quarter. And then one action for landscape architects. Any questions from members?
I do have one question, and I appreciate the report. On the common violations, does that track consistently with landscape architects?
Oh, that's a good question, Ron. I don't know that we've ever compared that. And I don't think we have that
information on theirs
in here for LATC. Yeah, let me check on that. I will send some follow-up information to the board, and I'll put that in the next board packet as well.
Thank you.
I also have a question, Laura.
Yeah.
As you know, NCARB has been doing something pretty interesting, which is they released the free practice test, right? After which they decide to do a quick, because since such a short time, they decide to do a very quick analysis of how it's helped the different groups with the passage, the rate of passage. And I know that nationally, it's something like between 13 and 17% increase. Yeah, and that's really interesting. I was just wondering if you can get that number, pull that number out for California. That'd
Yes.
be really.
Yeah, I appreciate you mentioned that, Sylvia. I should have included that. But yeah, I will find that and send it out to you. And then kind of on that topic, NCARB recently announced that they're going to eliminate what's called the rolling clock for the ARE divisions, where candidates have 5 years for their exam scores to stay valid. And so instead will be tied to the version of the ARE that's out. Right now we're in ARE 5.0, so that all exam scores for 5.0 and 4.0 would remain valid until then the next release. So the rolling clock exists in the board's regulations as well. So we're going to need to modify our regulations. So we're working on that and might have that ready at the May board meeting.
And with regard to that, how frequently do they change that? You said that you're in 2 versions.
The version of the exam, I would say it's at least 5 years between versions.
At least, I think 5 to 7.
Yeah, I think it used to be 5. It's getting closer to 7. Yeah.
Yeah, and 5.0 is pretty. It was a pretty big move,
Mm-hmm.
and so it may stick around. I haven't heard any rumblings about it, moving toward another one because it was so different, and I guess it's still effective.
Yeah, and I think so. They finished the practice analysis, so they're kind of in the process of it. So it wouldn't be until all of that work is done that would lead to the next release. So I think we'll have plenty of warning too, as well as to when they're coming out with the new one.
Yeah, there's just so you all know, I'm sure if you told your staff, I know I told the people at my office, and they're so excited because some of them had given up, especially the ones from the 4.0s. That, by the way, goes all the way back to 2008. So it's a pretty long run that they're going to accept it. I was disappointed that we didn't get to go all the way, to forever ago, which is where some of my people still are at. But anyway, this is a step right
Yeah.
forward.
Yeah, it's going to result in some people whose scores had been made invalid because of the 5 years to be revalidated now. So it will, yeah. When they did a study and looked at who would benefit, it really is going to benefit like minority candidates, female candidates. So.
Yes.
And how long is this sort of grace period going to last?
Basing it on the 2 divisions instead, that'll be.
No, I'm saying allowing you to go back to 2008 performances.
Oh, so that'll exist until we go into ARE 6.0. And then we started ARE 5.0, I think in 2016 or 2018. I have to
Sounds about right, yeah. So anyway, yeah, when Laura makes the report about how the different groups are benefiting from this practice exam, and later on when she gets the report on how the lack of a rolling clock is benefiting, it's going to really level the playing field, I think. That's the plan anyway. Yeah,
NCARB's done a really good job of looking at, possible barriers and how they can improve it while still maintaining, obviously, the standards. So it's good. It's really good.
Robert, do you have a question?
The vacant assistant EO, that's Vicky Myers' old position?
Yes.
And it's in the budget, I presume?
It is in the budget. Yeah, I'd held it vacant for a while as there was like some vacation balance to pay out, and then just because we've had been watching our budget closely, but yeah, we're in a position to fill it, so it'll be great.
Thank you.
Okay.
Awesome.
So if there aren't any other member questions, we can open it for public comment. All right.
Sounds good.
And we're opening up the Q&A feature to facilitate public comment. If anyone has a comment on the EO report, you can look for the question mark icon, typically in the lower right corner. Type the word comment in the text box and click send, or anyone may raise their hand by clicking once on the hand icon. And we do have a hand raise that might be left over from an earlier item, but Donna Tyler, I see your raised hand. I'm going to send you a request to unmute your microphone, and you'll have 2 minutes to speak with a 30-second warning. And Donna Tyler, did you have a comment? right, so with the exception of that one commenter, that one raised hand, we do not have any requests for public comment. Shall I close that feature?
Yes, please.
Thank you.
Okay, we've heard from Laura. We're going to skip over the presentation on examinations, licensing, and enforcement programs until our next meeting. And I think that brings us to regulations update, right, Laura?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. And this will be faster than a regular regulation update. So the first item, we don't have all the forms quite ready, so we're going to postpone that till May. But the second item is a regulation for LATC. So I'm actually going to ask Trish Rodriguez to present that item. I think she's in attendance. Are you there, Trish?
Trish, you're unmuted, but we're not hearing your voice.
There she is.
Your camera just came up.
Hear me?
Yes.
Very, very quietly. Yes. Thank you.
I'll try my best to speak up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so this is LATC has a regulatory proposal for Title 16, Division 26, Article 1, Section 2615. This regulatory proposal will allow candidates with an accredited landscape architect degree or an extension certificate and a degree to sit for all sections of the LAIR 1 through 4. So currently these candidates are permitted to take sections 1 and 2 only, which are project and construction administration and inventory and analysis. Work experience under a landscape architect, which is currently required prior to taking sections 3 design and 4 grading, drainage, and construction documentation would instead be required prior to licensure. These proposed amendments are in response to CLARB's recent change to the LAIR, which go in effect in December. There are approximately 220 candidates approved to take the LAIR sections 1 and 2 under this pathway, 45 of which have already passed section 1. With the approved changes, these candidates will have an opportunity to attempt sections 3 and 4 and receive credit prior to the introduction of the new exam. So with that, the board is asked to approve the proposed regulatory changes. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer those for you.
Any questions, board? I'm good with it. Can we have do we need to have a call for a motion to vote? Can we have
I do have a suggested motion.
Okay.
Make the motion maybe before we open for public comment, if that works. So the draft
Correct,
motion.
Laura. This is Michael.
Okay, thank you. So the suggested motion is to move to approve as modified the proposed regulatory language to amend 16 CCR section 2615 regarding form of examinations, direct staff to submit the text to the Director of Consumer Affairs and the Business, Consumer Services, and Housing Agency for review, and direct the executive officer to take all steps necessary to initiate the rulemaking process, make any technical or non-substantive changes to the rulemaking package, and set the matter for hearing if requested. If no adverse comments are received during the 45-day comment period and no hearing is requested, authorize the executive officer to take all steps necessary to complete the rulemaking and adopt the proposed regulations at 16 CCR section 2615 as noticed.
So moved.
We have a first. Do we have a second? Second by Nilza. We'll put that on the record. Nilza Serrano seconds. First by Sylvia Kwan. Let's move for open this up for public comment.
And thank you. We've opened up the WebEx Q&A to facilitate public comment. If you would like to make a comment on the motion, you can look for the question mark icon, click that once, and then in the text box, type the word comment and click send, or anyone may raise their hand to ask to be recognized to comment. Each commenter will have 2 minutes to speak with a 30-second warning. Are there any comments on the motion or the regulatory proposal? I do not see any requests. Shall I close the public comment feature?
Yes, please.
Thank you.
Ron, would you actually, Mr. Canitz, will you please call for a vote?
Thank you, Mr. President. Yes, President Ward,
Yes.
Member Kanani,
Yes.
Member Serrano, Member Pearman, Vice President Jones, and Member Kwan.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Ms. Zuniga, do you have actually, Ms. Rodriguez, do you have another?
No, thank you. I believe the second reg is for the board.
Got it.
And that one we put over until May, so we're done with regulations.
Yay. Okay, so just as a reminder, we're going to have the presentation for the National Organization of Minority Architects in May. I'm really bummed about that. I spoke with them this week, and if you get a chance, go check out their website before the meeting. It'd be great to do a little bit of research on them. It's a wonderful organization, and it's needed. It's right in the middle of our discussion about increasing the diversity in this profession, and they have a wonderful organization down in San Diego, so I'm really looking forward to that presentation. I think all that's left is to talk about upcoming meeting dates. I'll send that back to you, Ms. Zuniga, because you have the dates, right?
I do. The next meeting is, well, it's in the packet. Bear with me. The next board meeting is May 19th. I believe we are going to do another virtual meeting. Our ability to meet virtually is going to end June 30th at this point, unless it's extended, so we might take advantage of it one more time. LATC is going to meet before that, though, on April 14th. And then we have a board meeting September 8th and December 1st, and we don't have locations yet for those.
Great.
We're meeting on the 21st.
Is LATC the 14th or the 21st? I thought we'd moved it.
Oh, I apologize, Michael. Thank you. Yes, they did move it. The 21st? Yes. And that, yeah, it's an in-person meeting.
Chairman, I have a potential conflict on May 19th in a hearing that week. That will be the last day of it. I suspect it'll end before then, but just to let you know, it's possible it won't.
We sure would rather have you. So if we hear rumblings of more absences, we'll reconsider that date.
And then did you say December 8th was the December meeting?
I think it was December 1st. Yeah, December 1st.
Oh, yes, I show it. Okay, and that's in person, right?
That will probably be in person, yeah. We'll try to move it a little bit up in December because I know it's a hard month for people to meet.
Right. It's always there's always something going on.
Yeah, it's a challenge.
If all the board members, when you get a chance, can just check those dates over and check your calendar, all three of them, as we move forward, and just let us know if there's any conflicts. That way we can hopefully avoid any lack of quorums. We don't need to talk about that publicly. So I think we're now at adjournment. Did I miss anything? Oh, Robert.
Just one question. I think the DCA person spoke, they mentioned the need for the info security assessment awareness, but that's only if you were assigned a DCA email. I don't think I've been assigned one, so I don't have to worry about that training, correct?
Right, board members don't have that. I will double check and see what training might be outstanding for board members, and Drew or I will email you next week.
Thank you.
It was great to see you all. I think we can adjourn now, though.
Right.
Thank you, everyone.
Everyone.
See you next time.
Bye.
Good job, Sonny.
Thank you.
Good job.
I
Yes,
appreciate
good
it.
job.